Are you ready for double the trouble? Hey there, it's Theo from Geeky Gamer Guy. This video will be previewing not one, but two new box games coming out from Flatout Games, Point City and Deep Dive. Now since we've got two games to cover, I thought it'd be only fair to give each their own mini preview. Use the timestamps in the description to find out more of the game you like, or just sit back and enjoy both. Notes: just like most of my previews, this video shows prototype components and is subject to changes. Let's get started with the hustle and bustle of Point City. Point City is a competitive card drafting and engine building game for 1 to 4 players. Players will be drafting cards from a grid to collect resources and then use those resources to construct buildings, which will help provide more permanent resources or endgame points. To set up, sort the cards into 3-tier decks based on the dots in the bottom left of the card's building side. Shuffle each deck, making sure each card's resource is facing up. Then remove cards based on this chart, placing unused cards back in the box. Stack the 3 decks with tier 3 on bottom, then 2, and finally tier 1 on top. Draw 16 cards from the draw pile to create the 16 card market grid. It's very important that throughout setup and during the game that the market is refilled with cards starting at the top left, moving right until the final card is placed in the bottom right. Flip and shuffle the civic tokens, selecting 10 for 2-player games, 12 for 3, or 14 for 4-player games, placing them as a face-up supply near the market. Lastly, take a number of ingenuity cards based on player count, being sure to include the star player card in it. Shuffle the cards and deal 1 to each player. The one with the starting player icon is the first player. Now we're ready to begin. Point City is played out over 17 rounds. Each round starts with the first player taking a turn and continues clockwise. On a turn, a player will draft 2 orthogonally adjacent cards in the market or draw 2 cards from the top of the draw pile. If there's a resource card in the market, the player may always take resource cards and place it in front of themselves. Resources show one of 5 icons on them: ecology, economy, energy, industry, and community. These resources can be used to construct building cards. Ingenuity resources, like the one at setup, are a special resource that can be used in place of any other resource for however many icons shown on the card. As the game progresses, the higher tier resource cards may show more than 1 resource on the card, or even more Ingenuity Wild resources. Ooh. The drafted resource card can immediately be used on the second card if it's a building or held on to for future rounds. Building cards require a certain number of resources to be discarded or permanent resources from other buildings in their city to be drafted. If the player doesn't have the resources for the building, that card can't be drafted. Nope. The player can always choose to draw 2 cards from the top of the draw pile, placing them resource side up to be used for constructing buildings in later turns. Remember, it's either 2 orthogonally adjacent cards from the market or 2 cards from the draw pile, never 1 from each. If a row or column contains only resources, once per turn before drafting, the player can flip any number of them to their building side. This is free and optional. Once a building has had its resources paid, they place the card in their city in a tableau in front of themselves, making sure to display the tops of the cards so that it shows the permanent resources and points it provides. Group them into columns with the same resources for easier reference at a glance. If a player constructs 2 buildings in a turn, each permanent resource can only be used once. Some building cards have a civic icon on the top right. They don't provide permanent resources but allow the player to grab a civic token from the supply. These tokens provide additional endgame points based on the cards and permanent resources in that player's city. Once cards have been drafted, refill the market with the cards from the draw pile in the same direction as done at setup, starting from the top left and moving to the bottom right. Skipping this step if they draw 2 cards from the draw pile. When refilling, if the card was drafted as a resource, flip the drawn card to its building side. If it was a building, place the refilled card resource side up. Players may find it helpful to use the included tokens to remember what each drafted card was. Turns go round and round like this until each player has taken 17 turns, which will be easy to tell because the draw pile will be empty and there are only 14 cards in the market. Then the players total up their points on constructed buildings and civic tokens. The player with the most points wins. In case of a tie, the player with the most resource cards remaining wins. There's still a tie. Those players share in the victory. Some features here include a super colorful engine building game that plays quick and smooth, but with plenty to ponder over. Oh, okay. Yeah, figure that out. I'm just rolling with it. Gathering enough resources from cards and other buildings to then chain into constructing other buildings is super satisfying when you pull it off, and pure torture when someone messes it all up. No, you didn't. Plus, even when there's nobody else to play with, this game includes a challenging and fun solo mode with varying difficulty levels to try. Lastly, it's not Deja Vu. This game has a very similar name and mechanics to FlatOut's other game, Point Salad, but it definitely amps up the difficulty a bit more, making both games a worthy addition to your collection. This game is definitely for players that like drafting and chaining tableau card games. Also, like I said, fans of Point Salad who crave more depth and complexity will absolutely adore this game. Love, 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 love. Now that we've explored the urban life to the fullest, let's cool things off with Deep Dive. Deep Dive is a competitive push-your-luck set collection game for 1 to 6 players. Players use their waddle of penguins to dive deep into the ocean in search of delicious food tiles to complete sets for points in the end. To set up, add ocean tiles with this symbol with 4 to 6 player games, or remove them in 1 to 3 player games. Then turn all remaining tiles face down and sort them by their depth. The lighter the color, the closer to the surface it is. Shuffle each depth thoroughly, spreading out the tiles and removing some from the game without looking at them based on player count according to this chart. Give each player 3 penguins of the same color. This is their waddle. Aww. Randomly select a start player and give them the start player / last dive token. They will go first. We're ready to get diving. Come on, let's dive in. In Deep Dive, players will use their penguins to dive deep into the ocean depths, flipping over an ocean tile at each one. Depending on the tile, they can choose to take it, resurfacing with it, or going deeper and repeating the process yet again. Starting with the player as a first player token, they move one of their penguins to the shallowest depth and decides to either take a face-up tile immediately, resurfacing with it, or flipping a face-down ocean tile. If it's an open water tile, the player must move to the next step and repeat taking a face-up tile or flipping a face-down one yet again. If a rock tile is revealed, the player can choose to stop their dive and resurface with it. Otherwise, leave the tile face up and continue to the next depth. Rock tiles allow the player to discard a claimed one to start their dive at any depth. Ooh, okay. If a food tile is revealed, the player can choose to take it and resurface with it, or leave it to continue on to the next depth. Food tiles come in 1 of 3 colors, with each scoring a greater amount of points the further deep in the ocean it is. If the player resurfaces on a turn with a food tile, they place it face up in front of themselves. Create columns based on the color food. So the same color tile will go in the matching column, with each row consisting of 1 of each of 3 colors. Lastly, if a predator tile is revealed, the player takes 1 of their penguins and places it on the predator, ending the turn immediately. Oh, it's trapped and can no longer participate in diving. Oh no! They do help their other penguins in the waddle to distract the predator, allowing the player to automatically skip over that depth to the next one if they want to, though. But the penguin. If the third penguin in a waddle should encounter a predator, all penguins retreat to the surface. The player may grab a single face-up food or rock tile from any depth their penguins were trapped in. Turns go around the table until any player flips the last remaining face-down ocean tile at any depth. They finish their turn and play continues until the turn gets back to the player with a start player token. They flip the token to the last dive side, triggering the final round of the game. During this round, any depth without face-down tiles can be skipped to dive deeper. Once everyone has taken a final turn, players calculate their scores. Players count the sum of each row of all of their food tokens. Each complete set of 3 different colors will score the points listed on them. Any tiles in a row where they aren't complete with the 3 colors only score half of that row's total, rounding down to the nearest whole number as needed. The player with the most points wins. If there's a tie, the players share in the victory. Some features here include a light, accessible push-your-luck game that takes only a couple minutes to explain, but brings plenty of fun. The mechanics make each tile reveal, even those of the other player, very exciting. It really makes you want to dive deeper to see what food tiles you can get. I could totally go one more. Just like the other game, it's just as pretty on the eyes. So cute! Just don't let all that cuteness fool you though, this game has got plenty of strategy too. Plus there's a fun solo mode with different difficulty levels in this one as well. This game is definitely for players that want a push your luck game that is filled with tense, exciting choices, but is still very approachable. If we're comparing between these two games, this is definitely the more easy game to bring out and play with non-gamers and children. So if either of these games, or both, sounds like something you'd enjoy, then you should definitely go check them out. Seriously, can't go wrong with either of them. I put a link in the description below for you to check out further. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to help out the channel, typing the like button really helps. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to not miss out on future videos. Until next time, stay geeky. Keep gaming. Only one. That's all you got. You only got one for that one. Only one. Players use their waddle of penguins to all right, I'm gonna go. Let's go. Let's dive in. Let's go dive in. Okay.